Welcome back to the Explicit Measures Podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Tommy. All right, I got a couple news items, but before we get into the news pieces and some, we call this a beat from the street, something we learned recently. I just want to point out here the main topic for today is going to talking about experience overuse. The word experience, how you experience things. What are you working on? Are we overusing this term right now in how we describe everything inside Fabric and Power BI? This seems like a buzzword. This is also a mailbag. This is a message from one of our listeners. So thank you very much, listener, for jumping in here and dropping us a topic. That being said, Tommy, let's go through a couple other news items here. One item I'd like to throw out here is before we get into some news, I think we just had a release of Power BI Desktop that's actually just been released on 1/20, and Desktop is just starting to get pushed out to people. There's a big warning note there that the January Power BI release is rolling out today, which I'm surprised, Tommy. Typically, we don't ever get a Power BI Desktop release in January.
I know.
I typically remember us skipping the month of January, and the first release we get is the one in February, which I find to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of the things too are, and I was going through to see how many new things there are and how many things they're just kind of making updates to. Gone are the days of just pure desktop major features where there's like a new button somewhere. We're doing enhancements now, but yeah, we'll get into that. But Mike, I think you had something for me.
Yeah, I got another kind of experience thing. So in PowerBI.com, Tommy, do you use deployment pipelines?
I do. I'm definitely, since it gets taken over more and more, but
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So I think the deployment pipelines in the past had some weaknesses. And so some of the weaknesses around deployment pipelines were particularly around notebooks and lakehouses. Did you ever try to run a notebook or a lakehouse through a deployment pipeline?
No, I did not.
Okay. So my last impression of deployment pipelines. So for those of you who are not familiar with what a deployment pipeline is, this is a premium level feature. It's on premium per user or anything in the Fabric F SKU levels. And what the idea of this is, a deployment pipeline takes items that exist in a singular workspace, your development workspace, and you move it to another workspace. Now, Tommy, we talked about this a while ago, like how deployment pipelines made it easier to deploy semantic models and how you can make a deployment pipeline move that semantic model from dev to test. And then if you have a report bound to the development semantic model and you move the report from dev to test, the report kind of auto-magically rebinds itself to the test semantic model. So you can kind of move things along through this pipeline, and it automatically knows, oh, I was connected to this semantic model. It was named this. I'm now moving to this next workspace that has a new semantic model. Great. Super helpful. Well, when you moved over to notebooks and lakehouses, Tommy, we would bring in data through our notebook or a pipeline or something like that. We'd get data to the lakehouse, and then you would have notebooks touch that lakehouse, read the information, and then push it to the next level. Well, that in the past had never worked. You would deploy a lakehouse, you would move it to the next environment, and the notebook would still be pointed back at the original development workspace. Something's been fixed. There's been no blog announcement about it. There's been nothing else. And so now, maybe I missed it. I could have totally missed this, but I love deployment pipelines. I think they're great for, starting to provide some rigor to business teams to start developing things with a regular pattern. Here's where we build test. Here's where we build production. Here's where we build test. So even dev prod is enough to separation, I think. It's not so overly complicated to confuse people, but I think it's a very reasonable way to think about that.
Interesting.
So now notebooks are auto-binding when you move the lakehouse. One, I love that. And then two, if you go into the deployment pipeline, and then after the deployment, you go look at the diffs. You've been able to see diffs of just semantic models and reports. You can now see diffs between lakehouses. You can now see diffs between notebooks. You can see which cells have changed in which part of the notebook. You can see all the metadata of the notebook as it's moving from one place to another. There's a lot more information in the deployment pipeline now. And I'm mystified, Tommy. I'm mystified because when did this happen? How come I didn't see a blog about it? And I literally saw that feature and thought, oh my gosh, I need to tell the podcast about this. This is amazing. I'm going to gush about it because I like it so much. It's so good.
Mike, you and I are the ones who are scouring the web for features and updates. And yeah, I can't remember the last time on a blog or Twitter that there's
Nothing.
actually been a mention.
Nothing. I've even talked to the PM team. I said, hey, PM team, this just works. They're like, yeah, it just works. I'm like, wait a minute, what? I said, there's no announcement about this. This didn't work like a couple months ago. When did this show up? I don't know what you're improving things, but no one posted it. There's nothing out there. I don't get this. Like, I'm totally missed it. And I would have loved to have, pushed that out and talked to people about it. But, Microsoft is improving some things here. That seems very uncharacteristic of Microsoft to push out a feature that no one actually knew changed. I will say this. This is a very big creature comfort feature for me. I like it very much. If I'm doing a deployment between different environments, I have to see the definition of what's going on. I really want to see line by line what's the difference between the two items. It's sadly though one, as I gush about the feature, I'll give you one kind of slight improvement, Mr. Microsoft, if you're listening. When you do a diff on the semantic model, you're still using the BIM format. I'd prefer you to use Timdal or something else, or at least have a button to switch over to Timdal so it's easier for me to read the differences in semantic models. But other than the fact that there's a little bit of weirdness on the semantic model level, I'm already getting a much more improved experience when using deployment pipelines. Like it.
Okay, well, deployment pipelines. It's good to know, Mike. How much though have you really shifted just because of Git, or do you still really find deployment pipelines having like an integral value?
Yeah, Tommy, I've done a very deep dive on like Git integration, either Azure DevOps or GitHub. We definitely want to attach that stuff into the development workspace. I think that's definitely a given. It's very easy to use Git, and we think of it more as like a backup at this point. Certain teams aren't comfortable with doing pull requests, pulling content down, developing local with the Git repos. Most people like to kind of stay inside the workspace. So I think on the larger organization size, Git makes a lot of sense because there's a pretty steep learning curve, I think, with people and understanding. And when you come out of the BI stack world, you're not used to doing branching strategies. That's definitely more of a software development side of things. But I'm using a lot more, Tommy. I think even in some large organizations that are just like, look, we just need to get stuff out the door. We're not looking to get super technical on every little action that comes out of a GitHub or Azure DevOps. We don't want to add we want to add automation, but only to a certain degree. We still need a human in the loop. Deployment pipelines are great. It seems to be fairly reasonable. And one other observation, Tommy, I'll put out here. This is kind of a side note to what you're saying. Deployment pipelines, great. Like them. I think they're very strong. They should be used more. There's this role that is not being talked about that Microsoft hasn't really identified. When you talk to Microsoft about deployment pipelines, they're like, oh yeah, your DevOps engineer, your development operations. And yes, you're doing some level of DevOps. Maybe you're linking back to Git or GitHub. That's what the DevOps engineer should be doing. But I believe there's a different role of someone who needs to be in charge of the development, the pipeline, and moving content through. And I was just talking with a really big customer recently, and I said, look, I want to introduce this concept to you of the release manager. And they're like, what do you mean by that? And when I explained my concept of the release manager, this is an individual who sits across, can see development, test, and production. It works with the development team on backlog and ticketing and getting things done. So a little bit of a PM hat on that. In addition to that, that person knows how to move content from dev to test. They know how to do some of the DevOps level things. But also, I think they're very technical in the fact that they're also part admin. They're in the admin portal. They're looking at admin settings. So I really do think that there is this role, a series of actions you must do called the release manager. One who kind of PMs the project, works with the business to figure out what they need and how we're getting it out the door to them, working with the development team and making sure that the tickets are right, getting the deployments corrected, getting the right content through each of the different steps in the pipeline, notifying stakeholders when things show up in test. Hey, test this. Pushing on the stakeholders in test and making sure they don't delay on testing because they could sit on test items for 3 weeks or a week or a month. And what happens is if they don't approve the tests, you really shouldn't be pulling more things from dev into test again. So you either need to say, yes, we approve, move forward, or no, we kick it out and we move it back. So we've had to like do some pretty hard rules sometimes. Like you have a week to review this. If you don't give us any feedback in a week, we assume it's good. We're going to roll it through and we're going to put in the next change. And if it's wrong, it's your neck on the line, right? So there needs to be some really rigor around how you get stuff out the door, because teams can easily create a bottleneck in your pipeline of deploying things.
Dude, that was maybe the best monologue on pipelines I've heard in a long time. So
Ever?
good to
Maybe?
know, dude.
How many monologues are you listening to about pipelines? That's like
not
the
many.
second one I've said.
Oh, that's definitely one of the best ones. This is one of the best ones, dude. I love it. I absolutely love it. But hey, hopefully we'll see that updates in the blog and in the documentation as well, because
I don't know. I looked for the documentation. They did talk about like comparing the diffs. Nothing in the documentation talked about the exception or the addition of notebooks. There's nothing. Like I was kind of floored, Tommy, honestly. I was like, where does this? I went looking through the docs and I could find the fact that they were doing diffs and compares, but I was not finding the fact that diffs and compares now have more items. I would have thought at least announcement or something like that. Hey, look, here's the equivalent items that are now being deployed in a workspace that you can use in a deployment pipeline. Here's the ones where it's supported with showing diffs. Apparently, everything is supported now. I don't know. I'll have to go look at it. I know there's some exceptions to the rule. At least there was. I'll have to go check those next.
Dude, awesome. Well, hey, I think we need to get into Power BI's feature update, because Mike, they're actually not as bad as I thought.
Yeah. We typically don't get a feature update in January. This is the time where Microsoft kind of takes off from holidays. Again, Tommy, my impression here is the release in January is predicated on all the work being done in December, right? So since no one's really working in December, you really don't get a release in January. Also, Tommy, I'll note here, it's interesting that they're doing this. Typically, they release Power BI desktop files on like the 12th to the 17th, I think.
Right.
It feels like the beginning,
Yeah.
like the beginning third of the month, maybe. This is going to throw things off a little bit, because if they're releasing now on the 20th, we're going to have like 2 weeks and then another release. So I'm not really sure if that means we're going to get like a delayed or some kind of weird delay into February now. But anyway, just thinking through that out loud.
Interesting. Well, hey, Mike, let's do our favorite way, our draft, the first draft of the year.
Sure.
We have about 15 or like 10 to 12 pretty good features. So I will let you go first. You can pick whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal hopefully your thunder here, Tommy. I don't know if this is gonna be really what you're thinking. I'm gonna go after the developer and APIs. Again, I'm way more technical than most. The Power BI Enhanced Report Format, PBIR, is now the default format. That is how things are built nowadays.
Yeah, that is crazy. So it's still in preview with the opt-out option.
Correct.
But once it does become generally available in Q3 2026, that's going to be the only format available in desktop.
Yes. So I think for me, looking at that one, like this is adding a lot of capability for professional developers. To your point, Tommy, a lot of the Git integration, API access when you talk to reports. Every time, do you still get that message a lot, Tommy? I think I've got it turned on in my Power BI desktop. If you open an old file, it now automatically prompts you, hey, would you like to update this file to the new PBIR format? Wow. Are you seeing that in desktop now?
Yeah, and no, that update, I've been getting that update a few times. So
yeah, so I like that one, because means Microsoft is aggressively asking you to update and push towards the new format, which I think is really good. This is going to be the new way that we're going to be building things. We've got to embrace it. We've got to learn it. We've got plenty of time. It doesn't really change too much. The PBIX still looks the same, but under the hood inside the PBIX, or if you save the Power BI report as a PBIP project, all the files that you would get for the report, the theme files, the data model, everything is now updated to this new format. So I really like this one. It's probably a very detailed technical one, but that's the one I'm going to pick off for my first one. I like that one. Thankful that that's
a good one.
happening.
All right, so I'm actually going to go with one for uh, tables and matrices. Man, I'm surprised you didn't go for this one. Our taboo, our holy grail is getting the perfect table in Power BI. And they made a minor update, but for me, this is something that's going to save a few headaches. Column sizing updates for tables and matrices. So before, if you want to auto size a column in a table or matrix,
Yes.
you it would just auto size and it would fill the available space. It would, they were making some updates in October and November of last year,
Hmm.
but now the behaviors change. So in reports that are created from this release onward, columns can once been can be sized by default based on the content that they contain. So that makes tables and matrices a little more compact and easier to read. You can still manually update the column width, or you can use a new option called Grow to Fit to expand columns when needed, rather than like, oh no, use auto size and it becomes, one of those terrible situations.
Sure.
So this is good. By default, visuals are going to prioritize content-driven sizing, so it's going to be a little more easier, at least when you say, like auto size it. So
Tommy,
this is pretty cool, Mike.
I'm going to give you why I didn't pick this one. This is just lipstick on a pig at this point.
Is it
Like,
now?
yes, maybe it adds a little bit of assistance here. Maybe it scales things. Tables I just struggle with in general inside Power BI desktop. Like, I don't really want a table the way Microsoft has presented tables. What I really want is give me back my Excel table. Give me back what I had previously inside Excel. That for years I've been able to use. There needs to be a table slicer, something, whatever you want to call it. There's got to be like a table slicer. Select something from a column, just the way you do inside Excel, and then everything on the page updates when you filter down the column of information. I want a pivot table, just like I would build them inside Excel. Why we can't get that figured out and make those two things happen is kind of beyond me. Like, this is a nice feature. I wonder what happens when you have lots of columns that extend the boundary of the window of the table, and then you then turn it on to grow to fit. What does it happen? What happens? Does the scroll bar show up? How does that work? So I'm not quite sure about some of the rules around this one. So I think this is an okay feature for me. I feel like tables and matrices are really missing a core functionality, and they just need parity with Excel. I'm going to kind of keep hanging on that one. I know that's probably a lot of work
It's
for the
never
team.
going to happen.
I don't know. Like, fine, it never happens. Build a new visual, Microsoft. Go build a new visual that makes it feel just like a table in Excel. That's what I want. I would argue a lot of people
Never
want.
gonna happen.
Maybe Microsoft's doing that intentionally to not give you that experience, so to push you towards paginated stuff, because you really shouldn't be dropping in massive, big, wide tables inside Power BI reports. They don't perform really well. So maybe there's a strategic reason why they're not doing it, but I don't really like it.
I think they want people away from tables too. That's probably why. Also, it's written in JavaScript. So, all right, that's mine. I'll take it. You know what? You can be hard on it. You can say it's not enough, but I'll take it. I'll take the feature update. Something that it may not be perfect, but it's something.
Tommy, I'm
So,
surprised you didn't pick the other one here that I thought you would definitely
the
pick.
Copilot ones.
No, introducing markers on the Azure Maps visual, because everyone loves
Yeah.
mapping visuals.
Wow, we can mark. Yes, this is one of those. Definitely, every other map visual has it. Has had it since Power BI has been out, but now the Azure Map one has it. You know what's funny though too? I have always loved the Azure Map. I kind of was my default one. I thought, even though it couldn't do marking, which was kind of an issue, I
Mhm.
did love how it shaded and colored in. So now it's a complete tool. It's a real toy. It's a real boy now. So congratulations, Azure.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on, maybe this is an obtuse one, Tommy. I'm not sure if this is really thing. I struggle a lot with the format pane. The format pane and I have problems. We have issues. We fight a lot. So being the format pane, there's too much stuff. I can't find things. I'm always using search. It doesn't feel fluid enough. There's so many properties for a single visual. It's just difficult. So Tommy, here we go. Format pane improvements. When you're in the color picker and you select a color, Tommy, now for the first time since 2015,
Recent
You can now
colors.
see what color you selected.
That's insane.
It's insane.
I should have started with this.
This is a great one. So I really like this one. It's so you don't need to build rocket science things. You need to simplify and like do some simple things. So now the theme colors that you pick, when you click on an object and you see a color has been selected, you can then at least see what item has been selected on the little grid area. Like it. I think that's great. Another improvement.
Dude,
There is now
that's a major one.
that's a pretty big one. Again, it's usability, right? This is like creature comforts that just got to be there, right? Another one that's I think pretty useful here. Granular reset options in the format pane. Okay, so when you're clicking around and modifying something on the filter pane, there's an ellipsis at the upper right hand corner of the settings of the visual.
You've always hated that.
I always use this one. I do use this one. This is fairly frequent, but it was pretty heavy handed. You can reset all settings for the entire visual. So any setting you set, you can reset everything to default. Yes, got it. Now they have in the individual section, so you know how you have the different sections that expand the accordion, they call those the accordions. The accordion that expands, and at the very bottom, hidden in the bottom little tiny corner, it says reset to default. So you can reset a single section to default, which we've had that for a while. But it looks like now you can also right-click on the card in the section. So now we have the accordion, and then in the accordion, there's now individual sections within that accordion area. So, for example, you may have a color. You may have the border, right? The color is its own card. The border is its own card. And you can collapse and expand the cards as well. Now they're going to let you reset the card or the individual sections defaults as opposed to the whole thing. So if you were setting multiple things, you can now reset a single card item of elements. I do a lot of playing around, Tommy. You tell I'm very passionate about this part of the world of Power BI. I build a tool called Power Designer. It is by far the best tool out there for building stylized reports. It has the most robust and all of the updated features for all the theme properties. There's a lot of theme generators out there today. They don't have all the properties. They're missing stuff all the time. Every month, we're trying to check and update to make sure that we have the latest features inside our toolbar, so that we're ahead of the game. And also, our Power Designer, we've got previews. You want to go preview your theme file on an existing report? There aren't many tools out there that are doing this all in one package. So I think we've got the most robust template and report theming design tool that you're going to see out there. So anyways, I'm passionate about improving the filter pane settings, having that become simpler, having to become more settings, easier to reset things when they're a problem. The only setting I'm going to kind of rag on this one, I love this. This is good. Filter pane's great. We need another setting on, let's call it the tabs across the bottom of the page of the report. Mm-hmm. We need another setting where you right click and you can reset all styles on a page. I need to be able to reset all styles throughout the entire report. Those two features do not exist. And I do think people, especially as they're building like theme files and trying to test things and figure out what works and what doesn't work, there's a lot of times where you're going to need to reset everything to default because some user has adjusted something and it's overriding the theme file. So I don't want to have to go through and select every single visual and then click reset and put back to default. So to be very clear here, that's a missing feature of this reset to default area, which I'd like to see implemented more broadly at the page and the report level. Maybe there's an idea coming from Power Designer that you might see coming out here in the future. So anyways.
Yeah. Honestly, though, Mike, when it comes to formatting, I mean, listen, I'm a huge proponent of your tool, the Power BI Tips Theme Designer.
Of course you are. You got a free license.
Since version 1, which I think is still available.
Version 1's no longer. I think we've deprecated version 1. It used to be super simple. It was just like, hey, here's 10 colors that you have. You can just literally enter in 10 colors and get a theme.
Still pretty cool.
From it.
Yeah,
it was the first theme tool that was out there. They announced theming, and I thought this is amazing. But I hate writing JSON. And within a week or two of them announcing the feature, I had already made a theme generator tool and started building on top of it. And we've been building this tool since. Oh gosh, it's been quite a while, Tommy, since we announced it. 7 years? Is it how long the theme generator's been out? I mean, maybe even more. I can't remember. It literally, when the feature was released, we were right there on top of it within a week or two, having our own theme generator experience already out there for you to use. So yeah, we're probably the oldest theme generator and the most robust theme generator now. We're building full on PBIP project files. We can now use templates. Oh, speaking of which, Tommy, I got a plug here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Inside the power, so we have the theme generator, which is, we call that themes.powerbi.tips. That's the website. The same product also exists inside Microsoft Fabric as Power Designer. That's why I keep calling it Power Designer. It's our theme generator. Inside Power Designer, we now have added an enterprise option. So Tommy, imagine you're building themes or theme files, or you're building a report with pages and backgrounds and colors, right? You want to create a enterprise collection of all your enterprise theme files, things that you want to share with your whole organization. Now, anyone in your organization can download the theme generator, put it in their workspace, and they can browse the enterprise theme gallery. These are all the themes and templates that you made for your organization.
Wow.
You can one button deploy them into any workspace you want right from the tool. So it bundles the file up, it deploys it, and then it asks you to bind yourself to a semantic model so you can take an existing template report, auto bind it to a semantic model, and have it deployed in a workspace. And then it gives you a link to get there. No other tool's doing this. Like we're the only tool providing enterprise grade templating and solutioning around theme files. So anyways, I
Not
just want to
bad,
highlight
dude.
that. We just released that this month. So very excited to see enterprises start using theme generations as well. I think it's going to add them or save them a lot of time at a minimum.
Congratulations, my friend. All right. So speaking of deprecation and also things I thought were already out, the Q&A deprecation is actually happening for Power BI, which I'm kind of sad about because I remember I did try to push that so much.
I'm not sad.
Again, it's going to be replaced by Copilot. And then they had something about the modern visual tooltips. And I remember thinking to myself, hasn't that been around since like 2019?
Modern visual tooltips.
Yeah, they have a whole section on modern visual tooltips, and it says, hey, you can do drill actions. There's a new actions footer. Let users drill down or drill up. Styling. And
wow. So that means like it's been in preview this whole time?
I guess. I mean, that's like 8 years or 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
On one hand, I'm like, I've turned these things on and forgot they were even in preview.
Yes.
I just used them. And
when I do dashboard in a day, I make users change that setting.
Yeah. Okay. This is good. Okay. I like seeing this. I like seeing things get knocked off and get out into GA. Get that. So your preview list of features inside Power BI Desktop should not be a scrollable list. Can we at least get that list down to a non-scrollable list, please?
Oh man.
So that's one area there. I'd like to see that. This is cool. I'm glad that they're finishing up this feature. I don't know. This is one thing I'm not quite sure, Tommy. So a lot of times they put something into preview, it gets out the door, we see if there's usage on it, and then Microsoft has to apply people towards the process or that product or that item and then finish it up, right? There's usually some missing features. There's something that they need to do to internally say, yeah, this is ready to go GA, whatever that is. I don't know. But I'm happy that they're cleaning up a lot of these little featers. Spanish Q&A, anyone? I think we can deprecate that one now because I guess Q&A is going away. Exactly. So you don't think it was the Spanish. So that was going to be deprecated.
Yeah. And the last one I think worth mentioning, there's one on field parameters. I'll save the time. Okay. The standalone Copilot on the homepage. I know they talked about this already at one point.
Tommy, this made me concerned, honestly. This just showed up on my tenants recently. I'm concerned about this.
Why?
I have concerns. Just announce the feature first, and then I'll tell you my concerns. Go ahead. Copilot is now on home.
So yeah, so the Copilot's standalone on the homepage. So even though they're introduced it was something they already introduced. Right now, there's an entry point on your left-hand side where you have your workspaces, the browse. Copilot's closer than ever in Power BI. So it's basically directly when you go to Power BI Home, you get Copilot with faster insights, easier discovery. And when does it appear? It shows up when standalone Copilot's enabled by your tenant admin. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. It is going to take the place if you have a Copilot standalone.
So I'm going to go two things I want to kind of call out here. When does this Copilot on home experience show up? How does it turn on for users? It shows up when standalone Copilot is enabled, turned on in your tenant. So you have to have that setting on. So if you don't see this Copilot on the home page, literally what they mean by home is the little house icon at the top of the navbar menu on the left-hand side of the screen. That home icon up there, that's the icon we're talking about. That's the home icon for what you see there. So Copilot, standalone Copilot has to be enabled, and you must have a valid Copilot capacity.
Yes.
So it doesn't. This is what I'm a little bit leery about. Right, a valid Copilot capacity means any Fabric SKU. So if you have a Fabric SKU, does that just turn it on? Also, here, if you don't like that one and you prefer the classic view with just some random cards that really don't take you anywhere and actually add a lot of value to you, you can always switch back to your recommended content at the top of the page. But you do that at the picker at the top of the home page. So I'm looking at this, Tommy, going, it seems like they're really forcing this on this. There's no mention in here about an admin setting that says, as an admin, I want to force everyone to have the recommended content as opposed to using Copilot. So you may have Copilot on, you may have it different places, but it doesn't feel like there's an admin control to adjust this.
Yeah,
so I don't know about that, Tommy.
There's only like 2 or 3 settings intended. It's simply saying users can use Copilot and other features powered by Azure OpenAI.
Yep.
And then there's now a new one. Users can access a standalone cross-item Power BI Copilot experience.
Yes.
It is frustrating that we can't use, because to your point, we cannot use our Copilot that we have for Office 365. We actually have to make sure that we're actually using to your point, the Fabric capacity Copilot.
Tommy, I'm gonna go on a limb here. How much time do you spend on the home page of Power BI?
That's where I direct all my users to all the time. So
yeah,
I say that's where you start. That's what you bookmark. I don't spend out time at all there, but I'm also not usually just browsing. So
I feel like what I would like. So, okay, fine. Copilot home experience is there. You can see it. Fine. I'm looking at this going, I really want to, if I look at the content at the top of the page, I'm not really loving the fact that it's always that top part of this, the recommended items or Copilot. I really feel like data discovery, new reports, something around like the One Lake catalog, a little bit of like interesting things from there. Discover new data you haven't seen, or here's some new tables that have showed up, or here's a new lake house. Like there's almost like a little bit of a news feed that I feel like would be more relevant here on this page. Now, I will say this, on the homepage, I do use the homepage a lot. I typically do not use recent. My favorite thing to use is favorite a couple of items.
Yes, favorite should be one of the sidebar options.
Front and center. Favorites should be highlighted. I think they've done a miss here. The favorites is, honestly, Tommy, I would even prefer, instead of home, I would like to pin favorites as a core button on the left side of the page.
Oh yeah.
And what if I could? Right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think. And Donald, thank you for also injecting your comments here too. Donald also says he likes favorites there instead. So I think more highlighting around what favorites are, maybe I could, make a little thumbnail for like my report and then have that. I would like to see a couple like really handy reports that are just sitting there right on the homepage. My favorites, boom, right there, highlighted, nice and center. I don't need Copilot. I'm not going to go to the homepage and start typing something to talk to Copilot to go find something that I already know what I'm looking for. Honestly, I'm just showing up to powerbi.com to go hit an existing report that I'm going to go do.
Especially if you use it as a search feature, Mike. I don't want it to reason or ponder my question. It's just like, no, go find things that start with this.
Yes.
Yes. If you have that, then I would say everything's got to be approved by Copilot, which is now that they've changed the name to the Prep for AI is just approved for Copilot. If you don't have things prepped for AI it's just going to be a hodgepodge of things. So
I don't know, Tommy. This is interesting. We'll see where this goes. I'm not sure how this is going to roll out. And also interesting, in my tenants, I was seeing it show up yesterday, and today I don't see it. So I'm in both my tenants right now. I'm refreshing my pages. I don't know if there was a setting that flipped or something, but I was seeing it yesterday when maybe they were rolling out code, And for whatever reason, now on both my tenants, I'm looking at it right now, both of them are still showing recommended. So maybe something was wrong and someone's rolling a feature back here. I'm not quite sure what happened. We'll have to get an inside scoop. But yesterday, I was seeing the Copilot on home. Today, I am not. I am in the North Central region, so I don't know if that means anything. If something rolled back there, or it's changing in other regions. So I'll check my other tenants that I have access to and see if that's actually there or not. Anyways, okay. Yeah. We've been talking a lot about news, fun things, releases, awesome, very fun. Enjoy those moments there. Let's get into our main topic today. Tommy, give us our main topic. Let's talk about the overuse experience, or the overemphasis on experience.
All right, so I'm going to read the mailbag here. It's a pretty good one, well written. So here we go. I dare all the fabricators to start a game with the word experience. The word seems to be used everywhere for what we used to call a web page or an application. Already a hot take.
Yep.
Riding a roller coaster or backpacking Europe are experiences, but opening a notebook or copy job, that's not an experience. Let's look at the actual definition of experience. Experience is a noun, a particular instance of personally encountering or undergoing something. Example, my encounter with the bear in the woods. The process or fact of personally observing, encountering, we just did that. The observing, encountering, or undergoing of things generally as they occur in the course of time, to learn from experience. Knowledge or practical wisdom gained from what one has observed, encountered, undergone. A man of experience. In philosophy, the totality given by perception, all that is perceived, understood, and remembered. And that's all he wrote. In terms of really, I think, obviously, Mike, we have a listener who is fed up with all of the blogs and the conferences saying, oh my gosh, we have this amazing new Copilot. I think it probably said the standalone Copilot experience. Yeah.
Did it actually say that? I'm gonna buzzword search this right now. I'm gonna go to the summary for this month, and I'm going to search for
11 times in just this article.
Okay. So if we were playing any sort of drinking game, it would be like, that would be 11 sips right there. So inside the Copilot experience right there, Tommy, right there. You nailed it. Copilot experience, the Copilot search experience. Yeah. A lot of this is being buzzworded.
Prep for AI is an experience.
Toggle between the experiences between Power BI and Fabric, right? The classic home experience. Tommy, so what's the rub here? What is the rub on the overuse of experiences? I mean, are we not experiencing something when we're going into these products that anyone makes, for that matter, right? There's always some sort of emotion that's evoked when you go there.
Yes and no, because it's funny because I've been reading a few articles lately about the whole influx of AI agents. And you mentioned this too, where everyone is creating, but you're realizing there's still a void, where nothing's getting perfected. People are just putting more things out there, and we're kind of going away from the traditional experience of planning to build something or planning to work or create something. Right now, if you have a thought in your head, going to the bathroom, you can create an app. Or just have another thing created and another thing started.
You're not talking about apps about going to the bathroom. You're talking about the idea of creating the app is that it can be made the time
an experience to
go to the bathroom and back. Because that's what you're referring to.
Yes, to be fair, going to the bathroom is an experience.
Let's give it above board, Tommy. Let's give it above board.
But now I have all these half-built apps on my computer or on GitHub.
Oh, this is good, Tommy. Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this.
So I saw a really funny meme yesterday about exactly what you're talking about, Tommy. Man, before AI, I only had like 1 or 2 unsolved projects sitting on my desk, right? I always had a couple side projects working on. And now with AI, I have 10 or 15 side projects that I haven't finished. So I can feel the same commiseration, Tommy. I feel the same thing. I want to pick on this comment around the experience. So I understand the word experience is kind of probably like a fad right now. It's a fad around what does the user experience. I think more of what this is going after, and maybe this is a Copilot or an AI-enabled something, right, Tommy? Apple did a really good marketing advertisement, I guess it would be, a couple years ago, And they had all these things about, why Apple does things,
Mhm.
why Apple designs what they design, why Apple has the product the way they have it. And they said what they tried to design for that has made them so successful is they design for an emotion, a feeling. That's what they design for. And so they pick the feeling of what they want to design against. And then from there, they try and have every lens of that become part of the product, right? And so if we look back at some of those experiences that I felt with Copilot, right, when it first came out, or some of those first experiences around Chat GPT, right? Remember when that thing landed? Like, was it
Yeah.
3 years ago, 2023? Is that when it landed? I don't even remember.
I think
It's
it
been
was
a while.
2023. Yeah.
2023 or 2022. But anyways, when that landed, Tommy, that changed the game. We didn't know it at the time, but we looked at what was happening in large language models, and there was an experience we had there that evoked this emotion of like, I was impressed. I didn't think a computer could do this. It was doing things that I didn't think. It was summarizing information. It was pulling together summaries. It was doing stuff that was traditionally harder and only search browser driven. And I think that maybe was the linchpin here as to why we're seeing the word experience increase a lot, because we're continually trying to seek after this. If the user has a good experience, they'll come back and use the product again. What do you
Mm.
think? Am I
And
off
I
here?
think no, I think you're exactly in terms of especially where you have half built things. We're not having to plan, again, or devote as much time into quickly trying to do things. And I think right now we're kind of also seeing that and I don't think it's just Microsoft. I would be hard pressed to say it's just Microsoft and the Fabric team who are trying to do this. It's I think any company right now, both from the AI side, but also the rapid development of, you have a subscription, a company has their subscription. So we have to churn out major features. And especially when it comes to anything in the data world, I think anything, you see the same thing with like Azure and AWS, and Google, and obviously everyone is trying to be the latest greatest with anything that's agent based or AI. And yeah, like there's so much focus when I'm in the UI and Fabric. And you see how much the Microsoft team also cares about this too, in terms of what kind of experience you're going to get. And when Fabric first came out, I remember it was, hey, based on your persona, are you a data engineer? They had those 4 kind of buttons, or those 4, I don't know what they're called, boxes saying, choose your path, basically. They kind of scrapped that. Then now they have like if you can go to Fabric rather than powerbi.com, so app.fabric, you get a different experience, even though it's the same UI.
Mhm.
And I think it's important, Mike. Like, I don't want to downplay what our listener said, but at the same time, I'm kind of disagreeing with him.
I mean, I think, let me go back to AI and what AI is doing to things here, Tommy, right? I think this is interesting, or at least, if nothing else, it's just a concept that I think is kind of fun to like toy with. The idea here to kind of unpack a little bit, right? What happens when you take a website that would normally have taken you hours to build, right? You're using a framework like WordPress. You've got to go find a template. A lot of those templates that are out there are gated by paywalls, so you got to pay some money to get something to be done, right? And at the end of the day, you can get to a result that is, here's a website, here's how it works, here's how the buttons and the interactions. A lot of those things you delegate off to other people, Tommy, right? The experience of how you interact with things, I don't actually get to control it. I can't as the developer or as a user of another product, right? I don't get the ability to refine the style of the button, or other animations, and what kind of animation is there, and when you click it, is there a shadow that appears or not appear? Like, all of that really kind of informs that experience of what you work with things. Now, inject for me AI and agents now. When you drop in agents now, that experience can be delegated. I can program any website, any application, just by talking and speaking with the AI. So what we've done, I think, over in recent years is we're now able to delegate, democratize. I don't know what word we're going to use here, but we're going to be able to distribute the ability for anyone to create any kind of experience. And I think a lot of people in software development are always clamoring now around what does the experience feel like, right? I feel we are in a very exciting time. I think, Tommy, with this, we are in the middle from a software developer standpoint, from building products and code and things. There's, I'm going to mark my words, Tommy. We are right around the corner to massive disruption when it comes to data engineering and data pipelines. Massive disruption. We've seen AI disrupt the ability for you to build websites and code and Python and things. It's been very good. It's been supplemental to what I do. But Tommy, imagine now if you're going to just throw tasks at an AI. We're like, there's stuff that's happening. Have you heard about this Ralph Wiggum's thing for AI agents?
I need it. I am worried to get too into it, but yeah, I've been seeing that's been.
Tommy, be careful. Okay. Be careful. This is a rabbit hole that could eat up hours. Everything is a time suck these days when it comes to AI. This is another thing. Every 2 weeks, we're getting some kind of other new revolutionary way of doing things. This Ralph Wiggum's way of thinking is, okay, you're going to build something. Maybe it's an application. Maybe it's some styled UI. Maybe it's a full-blown something, whatever you're going to build. Doesn't matter. You have to really work on the plan of what you're building. And you break it down into this little PRD file that allows you to design the planning of what you're going to do. And it makes these little mini tasks. Here's task 1, and it breaks it down to these little tiny tasks that the AI can go do. And it adds automation to say, okay, AI, go build the feature. AI, go create some tests and test this feature as if you were a human. And then if that test passes, move on to the next feature. And so now we're building AI to be able to not only just build the feature and test it and go build the next feature, it's now iteratively building these things over and over and over again and cycling through this stuff. And we're just at the start of this, Tommy. Like, this is going to change drastically how we think about and how we build things. Tools will be built on top of this. This is going to really revolutionize what we do. And now the emphasis, you still need smart people to figure out what to build, because the AI is not going to know what to build. But you're going to need really smart people to figure out how to orchestrate what you're building. I'm seeing this in software development. How long till this comes to data engineering? When do we get an AI? Like right now, I see AI building experiences inside the notebook. I see AI building experiences inside the report, right? We see standalone Copilot experiences talking with data agents, right? We see ontology showing up. All these things feel like AI is in a part of the product. Where's the AI to build the entire product, Tommy, right? Like, hey, Copilot or whatever the thing is, build me a pipeline. This pipeline should have these actions. Here's the string to connect to the SQL database. Go look at this table, this table, this table. Go decide how we should load the tables. And literally with AI, plan out what you're going to do. Okay, I found table 1. I did some research. It looks like you should incrementally load it. Okay, do it. Like, you decide, AI, right? I don't want to pick the right tool. I don't want to pick the tool. Let the AI pick it. Should I be using a copy job on this? Is that going to be easier for me to manage? Should I be dropping it into a pipeline? Should it come in through a notebook? I don't know. AI, figure it out. And then the AI should be good enough to figure out, okay, it's going to build the task. Okay, table 1, I'm going to load it here. Table 2 and 3 can be loaded the same way. I'm going to build a metadata-driven pipeline inside a data factory pipeline inside Fabric or a pipeline, right? And here you go. I built it for you. And then at the end, I get to review all the things it created and tweak them to my needs. How, like, when will, this is not far away.
So it's funny though too, because now my Twitter feed is like, oh, you search or like clicked on a lot of things about Cloud Code, so that's the only thing we're going to show you. And it's very overwhelming with some of these tools too. And I imagine people out there look at Fabric the way I look at AI, because I am not the one with like the AI space in a sense building the AI itself. but I'm using it, and it just seems like a well that just never ends, that continues to go down. No matter how far I want to go down with learning AI or using the tools, there's always going to be more than I could consume. And I think about Fabric, and especially for organizations who are just getting introduced to this, I have a feeling, Mike, that they look at Fabric and they're just getting started with data, and they can see it the same way, where it's like, oh, notebooks, and okay, the lake house. Wait, are we data engineering right now? What happened to just reporting? What happened to just a semantic model and getting people to view data? What is all this other things? And especially, I think Microsoft's done a great job with the UI. For what it's worth, Mike, to let's not state that they've really put 6 different applications, 6 different careers, and they crammed it into one location. And I think they did a pretty good job. But I think that's why they try to use the word experience a lot, is because they're trying very hard for you when you're doing notebooks, that you're doing notebooks, and that it's great for a developer who's done it for years, and also for someone who's just starting. Mike, I had to update my blog site, and I know, actually, it was a tool that my other older company used. And when I logged in to try to just get started with it, and it wasn't anything like complex, but the way this application built everything, I didn't know where to go for settings. There was no help buttons. It was no way. I didn't even know how to ask a question. It was very frustrating. Um, and I think right now, that experience that Microsoft's trying to have us have is at least being, I know where I am, and it feels familiar in some way. And I think when we're talking about experiences, especially with data, go to AWS, dude, or go to their control panel. That's terrible. I hate that, because that's a bad experience. You better know where you're going.
I'd also argue I've spent a copious amount of time on
Google's
Amazon.com just trying to find the share button for something. Like, I found a product that I bought, and someone's like, "Hey, what'd you buy?" I'm like, "I bought this product." It was quite difficult to just go find the button to go share the product with somebody else inside Amazon. So, agreed, Tommy. Like, the experience, like how you feel when you use a part of the product, or how you feel when you implement some of these things. I think that's really, really useful. I think a lot of emphasis is now talking about experience, but this is the same stuff. Like, there's no. I think it's just a fad. That word and how it's being used is just been a fad of, like, just heavily used right now. It's been around for the whole time. We talk about UI, UX, like that's been, I think, more of a studied field. And I think experience is a way of you generalizing it a bit more, and not putting it in the hands of, like, the designer, right? The designer
right.
doesn't need to do that. If I can go over to Figma and AI my way into this, let me step back here one moment, Tommy. One thing that you were talking, while you were talking, I had a thought. And I thought this a couple times now, which is, when you are now programming, we have come to the place where programming is now what you speak. That is the ultimate programming language, right? It's if I can type words in English the way I'd speak, right, to an AI, and the AI can interpret them and then build code off of those words, we've just moved the programming language away from writing Java, TypeScript, whatever the thing is. We've now moved it into just naturally speaking to the computer. And I think this is where we stop. Like, I don't think there's any more evolution to talking to machines or computers other than using your natural language to tell it to do stuff, or tell it to build stuff. We're finished. Now what happens is, to your point, Tommy, we just make the AI better at interpreting, like, what you said. We're now starting to work on the tooling to make it easier for you to work with it, right? This is where Ralphie comes from. Ralphie comes from this space. Ralph Wiggums is this, tool that helps an AI make a task list and then burn through the tasks. Well, now who's going to make the task list? Well, now I'm going to use AI to help me build a really rich task list of all the things I need to create. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So this is where I'm kind of at right now, Tommy. Like this whole new world of programming has just moved from writing code to speaking to the computer. And we're still programming. It's just done in a more comfortable language.
Okay. So do you think we have an experience problem in Fabric?
I'm going to say this. I don't know the answer to that one, Tommy. What I
Okay.
will say, though, is I don't necessarily think we have an experience problem. I think we have, my opinion is, I think we have an attention problem per se,
Okay.
right? I think the attention problem is, and this is a problem that any, I think, large organization has struggles with, right, Tommy? Do you build a new feature that garnishes more users to show up to your product, or do you refine and clean and polish the existing features that are there? Who are you listening to, right? Are you listening to your existing users? I think there's a very, I feel like there's a lot of variety in how you look at this, right? If you want to drive for new exciting things, you build new features. That's just what you do. But if you want to retain your existing customers and make them happy about what they're building, you focus on existing features, refining them, making them more polished. But in that way, you're not really generating new revenue by doing that. That's almost like a cost of doing business. And at some point, the software gets so large that you're just maintaining and you're not able to really actually edit and create new features. And some of those older features that you liked, goals, right? Metric sets, right? Some of those things, you got to let them go. No one uses them. It was a neat idea. It kind of was, it was sold to the business as a good idea here, and it didn't really land, right? So you have to cut and run, move on to other things, even though some people may have liked it or used it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think as we kind of go to the tail end here, we're going to keep seeing it. I don't think it's going to go away, and the focus on what an experience is. I will tie it in with his definition of an experience. Every time I log into my computer, it is whether or not it's a significant experience. Not something that's going to necessarily be saved in the core memory. But when Mike, I was building a notebook yesterday. I was trying someone's open source repository. It was like, hey, a local model, and I was trying to do it in Google Colab, which is like Google's kind of market for like notebooks. And I was just thinking to myself, I complain about Fabric notebooks because I wish I had a more of a desktop experience. But trying to use Google Colab is terrible, even though it's their own kernel and it's super fast. I'm like, I love the ability, and I think whenever we're dealing with technology, regardless if it's Fabric, data, or just in general, the last thing I think we need is worrying about where to click, to your point, where the share button is. And I think, is my life better because of the workflow in Fabric? Yeah. I'm more developer focused, so there's other things that I do like kind of off it. But when I'm thinking of the experience of a new organization or the experience of a user getting into Fabric and getting introduced,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's the right way, and I think you have to set it as an experience, or say the word experience.
I think it's just what they're using right now. I mean, I think we've been doing experiences all along. It's been called UI UX. It's been called other things. I agree with this article, Tommy, or the comment here from the mailbag. I think the word is overused. Everything is the word experience. Experience this, experience that, experience this. Everyone's trying to evoke an emotion, and the product has gotten so large, everyone's using experiences. Instead of just saying the word, deliver, right? Where's my pivot table from Excel inside Power BI? Where's my table slicer that I really want? Like, what are we doing to improve the usability of the filter pane, right? Those are let's improve those experiences. Let's make that smoother, right? And yes, I agree, like it's probably overused, but at the end of the day, you're going to be invoking some sort of emotion from the developer or the user that's going to be using something the developer built.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, dude, this is good. Hey, you know what? our mailbags are usually so tech driven. This is a good one. So
Yes.
guys, we're me and Mike were going through the mailbags last week, and I'm amazed how many people are writing. So please keep sending us mailbags. And even if it's something like this, I don't think he even mentioned a particular part of fabric at all, which is kind of neat. But dude, pretty cool.
Yes. Also agree there, Tommy. Thank you all very much for listening to the podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this hour with us talking about some new news, going through some experience-based things that we've seen. Pay attention to what's going on in your Power BI tenant. You're going to see some Copilot things potentially show up here in the near term. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, we really appreciate your ears. We know you can spend your time doing a lot of other things. We do appreciate you spending time with us, and hopefully you learned a little bit more new knowledge around Power BI. This is like our water cooler conversation. If you like what we're saying here and you want to interact with us in real time, we are here. We're live. This is one of the, I don't know of any other data podcast that does a live podcast, Tommy.
I don't know of any other data podcasts out there.
Live, doing it live. I mean, there's data podcasts out there, but we're doing it live. So a lot of other ones record earlier and then edit down, and then everything you hear here is real. So if you want to join the conversation, if you actually want to participate with us during the show, you're more than welcome to come over to YouTube. That's where we do most of our chatting. So come on over to YouTube. That's where we do our main topical area. Find us on Power BI Tips there and join the conversation live in our chats. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to PowerBI.tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all of Power BI Tips social media channels.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.